Hi, my name is Lashawn Plant. I am going to be talking to you today about the unhealthy food choices and the effect that it have on child development. I am going to focus on my specific purpose, which is to inform you, my audience, on the importance of nutrition and child development. My central purpose will be to assist you in making sure that your child eat healthy foods in ways it can be done by practicing positive reinforcement. I know that as parents, we work all day long and it's very hard to come home and prepare healthy meals. But just imagine that every day that you come home and you're very tired, you do not want to make the meals that your child needs for healthy development, you decide to go to the local pizza shop or a restaurant to purchase food for your children. You get home and you're ready to feed your kids this unhealthy food, and your children intake more of the portions that they should. You look at your child and you don't think anything of it because your child always eats this way, but you notice that their growing is at a minimum. In fact, you have an 8-year-old child that is the size of your 6-year-old child, and you overlook it because you know that you're feeding your child foods every night, so it's not a real big concern. But just imagine later on in life, maybe a few months down the line, your child have a really bad illness and you're not sure what the problem is. So you take her to the local hospital to find that she have a very bad infection. The doctor explains to you that the infection is so bad that the child would have to stay overnight in the hospital because her immune system is very low and she cannot fight off the infection on her own. Can you imagine your 8-year-old child in the hospital with a really bad infection that cannot be fought off with her own body because of her immune system? Can you imagine why that took place? Just think about every day that you come home and instead of making a very healthy meal for your child, you are bringing home restaurant foods and foods that are not necessarily healthy for their development. When they're eating these foods from these different restaurants, they are not getting the nutrition that's needed for their body to maintain a healthy immune system or any other organs inside of their body. They're not getting the vitamins such as iron, vitamin A, zinc, or calcium, anything that is needed for them to have a very healthy growth. Your doctor then decides to withdraw your daughter from the hospital, and he tells you that she needs to be put on a very strict very strict diet. And so your child is 8 years old and she's normally used to all of the bad foods that you're bringing into your home. You've never set her down. She's never really had the simple nutrition such as vegetables. She's not used to eating them. Now you're trying to figure out a way or different ways that you can get your child to eat that healthy meal so that her immune system can grow. Well, today I'm going to speak to you about different things that you can do to make sure that your child is receiving that nutrition that she's needed for a healthy growth. I'm going to focus on 3 areas. That'll be preparations of the food. Another thing will be starting really young. Also, buying healthy and eating healthy. And if all fails, we have positive reinforcement. With preparing your food can be a lot of work. When preparing foods, you must know what your child likes and what they do not like. When preparing food, it's very essential that you add ingredients to your meals that are very good or tasty for the child. If, for example, you're cooking broccoli, you can always add cheese to the broccoli. And I know you're probably wondering, why would I want to give my child cheese when it's just as bad as the foods that she's eating on a regular basis? Well, I've included different cheese that are very healthy for your child, and there are a few cheeses out there that are more healthier than others that could also potentially get your child to eat their vegetables. Also, you can season your foods a lot better. Not saying add a lot of salt to your foods, but make your food taste very good to the child. And also you can add fruit to meals such as oatmeals. When you have oatmeal in the morning, I know it's very hard to get your child to eat the oatmeals and the grains that they're needed, even with cereal. You can add fruits such as apples or bananas, strawberries and mangoes, and you can dice them up and you put them inside of the oatmeal to make the meal very enticing. Also, when you're preparing your sauces, such as for spaghetti, red sauces, it's very easy to puree vegetables into the sauce. You do this by chopping up your vegetables such as broccoli or spinach. You can use zucchini, anything that your child do not want to eat on a normal basis but you know is very good for them. You will parade this inside of a blending machine, puree it up, and you can add it into the sauce. Because the sauce is red, the child will not know that it's there. And not only are they getting the foods that they're supposed to have, they're getting it. They're not even know that it's there. So that's another thing that you can do to make sure your child is eating. Also, starting really young. I know at 8 years old, your child is probably of age where it's too late to try to put them on a diet. Well, that's not entirely true. But it's very important that you start your child on a very healthy diet as early as an infant. You do understand that by the 6-month age, your child should be not only breastfeeding or eating or drinking milk, you should also have some type of solid foods. Well, instead of feeding them foods that are unhealthy at that time in their life, you should probably puree up your own vegetables opposed to going to the store and buying the vegetables inside of jars. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the foods that are inside of jars, but I just want you to understand that those foods are processed and they're processed for shelf life. And yes, it's food, and if you you don't have the time to puree your own vegetables, you can buy the vegetables that are in jars. But the whole point of this is to get your child started on eating vegetables at a very young age, as young as 6 months. And from 6 months, they're going to then go into their toddler ages, from 1 up until 3 years old. And it's important that you also continue to feed them the vegetables that is needed, so that they can get their body used to the routine of eating vegetables. So starting very young is very important. Also, avoid introducing your children to foods that are unhealthy. We know as adults that we would much rather eat foods that are unhealthy rather than eating foods that are healthy. So just imagine if you're feeding your child or infant food that is unhealthy, they're going to continue to want that food. So you can start them off on foods that are very healthy for them, opposed to foods that are not. Another thing that you could do would be to sit at the table opposed to eating around your house. Sitting at the table at night for meals is very important. It can help you with communicating with your children as far as how their day went. It also allows you to see the different foods that they're eating and that they're not eating. It can also allow you to help them or make them eat the foods that are necessary for them to eat. It also helps you with preparations, going back to preparation. When I said that it's very important that you feed them foods that they like. Well, if you're sitting at a table with them, you know what they like and what they don't like. So next time you cook, you would more rather cook the foods that they are liking opposed to the foods that they are not liking. My last step would be buying healthy, eating healthy. In order for you as a parent to get your child to eat healthy, you also have to eat healthy. So when you're going to the store buying foods that are unhealthy, try to buy foods that are healthy. Instead of buying snacks, you can buy fruits for your children to snack on. You have these healthy foods readily available for your children, meaning that you buy the food, you have them inside of bowls, you have them on your counter or on the table so that when the child see the food, they want the food. Also, whenever your children is watching movies or their favorite shows, you can also dice up and cut up apples or different types of fruits for your children to eat. And just please understand that, when you dice up the apples, make sure that it's small enough for it to fit in their hands. Children are more likely to eat foods that are the size of their hand opposed to a whole fruit. So always dice up the fruit and you can put it inside of a bowl and sit it in front of them, and I'm pretty sure they're going to eat the food. If you do not have chips and popcorns laying around your house for your child and all they see is fruit, when they're hungry, they're naturally going to go to that fruit and eat it. So that's the way that you can get your child to eat the natural fruits that have natural sugars that are also going to give them the nutrients that they need in order to have a very good immunity and other health growth along their child development. If all fails, you prepare your foods correctly, you have done everything that I've said previously, you have the fruits readily available, and you're still unable to get your child to eat foods that are necessary for a healthy growth, you can always rely on positive reinforcement. With positive reinforcement, you are decreasing the chances that your child will continue not wanting to eat unhealthy. With positive reinforcement, having other snacks available just in case they eat healthy foods is always good. Children obviously like cookies, so instead of giving it to them all the time, you would reward them with cookies or chips if they eat something healthy. Never offer money as an award for eating healthy. Children remember that and they will use that tactic against you. You don't want that in the future. And for families that have family nights, you can also reward your child by allowing them to choose the event for family nights. That's sometimes very important, especially when you have more than one child and every child want to do everything individually. Well, if you allow for your child to choose the family event for that particular night, if they eat their healthy foods, that is positive reinforcement. You can also allow your child to play with their toys a little bit longer when they don't have to go to school the next day. So instead of giving them an hour, you can give them an hour and a half if they eat the foods that they like. Positive reinforcement is another method that will get your child on the right track to eating healthy. We want to try to avoid negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement decreases the chance that your child will eat healthy foods. An example of negative reinforcement would be to make your child sit at a table and continue to sit there until they eat their meal. Most likely that child is not going to eat that meal. It's going to be 2 to 3 hours. They haven't gotten anything done in the day, and at the end of the night when it's time for you to clean out the table, that meal is still going to be there. So with negative reinforcement, you're going to get a negative outcome, meaning that your child still is not going to get that nutritional value that they need for that night in that meal, and you didn't improve anything. With positive reinforcement, it may seem like the child is getting what they want, but they're not. It's not necessarily the child getting what they want. It's you getting your child to eat the necessary foods that are good for them in health and development. Sometimes parents have to be a little bit more creative when trying to get their child to eat better. Following these techniques is a more increased chance that your child will eat healthy. Approaching the situation can be very tricky. With positive reinforcement, just remember, with consistency, it is less likely that your child will continue to be disobedient when it's time to eat healthy meals. So if you take all these methods and you put them together, I'm pretty sure that you can get your child to eat healthy foods. But if all fail, please rely on positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is the way to go when trying to get your child to do anything that you want them to do, whether it's eating foods or going to bed or doing their homework. Positive reinforcement is always better than negative reinforcement. Thank you for your time.